former House of Delegates member, 73rd District, or 78th, I think, now independent candidate for State Senate, District 16, Joe Morrissey, on the ballot and running against a Democratic incumbent, Roz Dance. He's going to pull the upset again. Hey, Joe, great to have you with us.
John, how are you this morning?
Joe, I've talked to a few people in Petersburg, and they're telling me that you're campaigning every day, 7 days a week, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, every night after work. You're knocking on doors all over the place, and you're starting to make headway. Tell us, can you win this race?
John, not only can I win it, I'm going to win the race. I spent earlier this summer about 32 days in Petersburg, went to about 6 of the different wards, 6 out of 7 wards, and crushing them. And it was great reception, and it's not a matter of doing well, having a good showing. I think I'm going to crush her in Petersburg, her hometown.
Now, Joe, a lot of people say, look, you were very popular in your House of Delegates district, but that's not the same precincts as the Senate district. You have to start all over. People don't really know who you are. True or false?
False. And I do not say this with any degree of braggadocio, but there's a brand, a Morrissey brand, that I'm going to fight for my constituents. I'm going to fight for my law clients. I generally don't even like politicians. I like getting something accomplished, working, to help solve some problems. People in Petersburg and Hopewell and Dinwiddie and Prince George and Chesterfield County and Richmond, they know the brand. It's not a slogan, Joe will fight for you. They mean it. It's true. Whether it's in the courtroom, the courthouse, or the state house, I'm gonna fight for my client or my constituent. So no, it doesn't make any difference that I'm running in a district that I've never served before.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to pick a day. I want to go into Petersburg or somewhere that local people go, that you often go in. I want to broadcast from there, just talk to people on the street live during my show. Can we do that?
Let's do that. You pick a spot, a general store in Petersburg, nothing staged. You pick the spot, where there's a lot of traffic. We'll go down there, and then let's ask the voters what they're thinking. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's not a good idea, and then we'll know from the people I talk to. I think you're going to win. Look, I can't even get Roz Dance she hasn't returned a phone call of mine in, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. So, I always get when politicians don't return phone calls, when they make themselves inaccessible. I don't know why they do that. If you don't, if you think you're going to win, you think you got a good record, then you ought to be able to return a phone call or whatever. Now, outline the differences for our listeners now in the 16th Senate District. You're an independent. Roz is a Democrat. Outline some of the key policy differences that Joe Morrissey has with Senator Dance.
Well, let's take number one. If you're going to run a government and you say to yourself, okay, I've got to provide protection for the folks, I've got to provide an infrastructure, I've got to provide education and for all my residents in the Commonwealth, before you can do any of those 3 core things, you've got to have your finances in order, okay? You've got to. That's one major difference between Dance and myself. I've run 2 very successful businesses. I understand a bottom line. I understand what it means to meet a budget, okay, to come in on budget or under budget. I know what it means to make a payroll, and my opponent has none of that experience. So when I spend the people's money, I spend it like it's my money. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we differ on is I don't believe in capital punishment. In the last 10 years, we've had 156 people throughout the country that were exonerated by DNA evidence because they got it wrong. The prosecutors came into court and said, we got it wrong. This person should be let free. That's a major policy difference. On education, I actually tend to side with Republicans I'm not like most Democrats that believe that public education is the panacea for everything. I believe there should be choice, whether it's contract schools, charter schools, public schools, parochial schools, homeschooling. Give people a choice. And you know what? There's a lot to be made sense for vouchers that my former colleague Jimmy Massey promoted in the House of Delegates. So those are three major differences.
Now, Joe, you've also got a pretty demonstrative record of being pro-life, right?
Yeah, well, that would be the fourth one. Thank you for bringing it up. I was one of the only, I think maybe the only Democrat in the caucus that was pro-life. Who, from the moment I got into the General Assembly, I was my own voice. We had a fetal, you maybe remember that fetal pain bill.
Yes.
You know, I supported that Republican measure. I've supported bills that are pro-life, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I do it with absolute conviction and confidence that I'm making the right decision.
Joe Morrissey, what do you think about this Planned Parenthood situation, selling baby parts or fetus parts or whatever? Do you think at least that function of it should be defunded from taxpayer dollars? How do you stand on that?
It's real simple. If it is shown that Planned Parenthood was engaged in the selling of body parts, fetal parts, it's first of all a disgrace. It's not just unchristian. It's not just poor policy. It's shameful and disgraceful. That's the first thing. And if that's shown, then yes, they should be defunded. If it's shown that Planned Parenthood was engaged in that type of shenanigans and behavior.
Okay. I want to get to, Joe Morrissey, I want to get to the fact that you're an independent candidate. If you were to win, and I think you will, and take that seat, Senate District 16, would you caucus with the Democrats, with the Republicans, or would you remain open-minded?
The latter. I would be inclined to remain open-minded. And again, John, you know me. I'm not one of those politicians that puts his finger up in the wind and say, which way is the wind blowing? I'm going to get in on that, okay? That's not me. That's not what I do. I'm going to support and I'm going to vote for the issue that I think is best for Virginians. So folks can expect me to continue with my independent streak. And while we're on that subject, I was listening to your broadcast and you were talking about Trump maybe not being able to get on the Republican ballot in Virginia. Can I weigh in on that for a second?
Please do.
There's two things in our government, our society, that have to be pure. They have to be sacrosanct. Number one, that's when you go into the courtroom. There can't be politics in the courtroom. It has got to be a level playing field with no shenanigans or untoward behavior going on. Everybody agrees with that. Number two, access to the ballot has got to be unfettered. It's got to be protected. It's sacrosanct. Now, once you get into office, people expect people to engage in politics and partisan bickering, but access to the ballot has got to be fair. Accordingly, while I may not agree with some of Trump's positions, I do believe that he should have access to that ballot, and it shouldn't be they shouldn't be playing games. And I hope you continue to champion and promote that matter.
Well, you know what, Joe Morrissey, Trump is being screwed by the establishment GOP, trying to concoct a rule in the middle of the game to deny him ballot access and to deny people in Virginia that choice. It's outrageous behavior. I was equally as critical of the Democratic Party, not necessarily of Virginia. I think they were complicit in it, but in District 16, when they went overboard to deny Joe Morrissey ballot access in that Democratic primary last summer or spring. Now, speaking of same thing, to me, it's the exact same thing. You got all those signatures. You came up 32 short. The whole thing was outrageous. And I'm just sick and tired of these party establishment types telling people what choices they have. I think it's outrageous and it has to stop.
Well, you hit a nerve, and Trump has hit a nerve. And what there's a core group of Republicans that are saying, I'm not part of that establishment base. And there's a core group of Democrats that are like that too. And they love that independent mindedness of Trump. And instead of backing down when he's taken a strong, strident position, he's doubled down.
Right.
And there's people that like that. They say, you know what? I might not agree with you, but thank God you take a position and you do it with conviction. So what they're doing to Trump is exactly what happened to me.
Right.
I ran as a Democrat, or tried to get on the Democratic primary ballot. I've been through 8 or 9 elections. I know what you got to do. I filed 978 petitions, and they discarded 750 and said, sorry, you're 22 votes short.
Unbelievable.
And they waited to the last day, the last hour. People know what they did, and it comes back, the karma comes around, and it'll come back to hurt them. And if the Republican Party does that to deny Trump or anybody access to the ballot, then the people get it, and they're going to respond, and it's not going to be pleasant.
I think that's exactly it. And to put an exclamation point by this, when you had to get on the ballot and you submitted your signature petitions, you had to submit that to the district chair of the 16th district that was a former employee of Rosdance. The whole thing was scammed. When you became an independent and submitted those same signatures, see, then it was reviewed by the registrar, right, with no bias, and you're on the ballot. So that's the only thing that changed. See, that to me is what is the matter with this whole system. People have to rise up and stop it. Now, Common Sense News Time, 53 past the hour. This is the John Fredericks Show across Virginia. We're with independent candidate, State Senate, District 16. That's the Petersburg, Richmond, Dinwiddie area. Joe Morrissey running as an independent against Democrat incumbent Rosdance. There is no Republican on the ballot, so that's your choice. Now, Joe, we got about 4 minutes. I want to get into the shenanigans that went down in the special session on Monday. The Democrats adjourning, basically saying, hey, no redistricting going on from the Republicans. We're going to go home. If you were in the state Senate, how would you have reacted to that entire day?
It was a very shameful, embarrassing moment for the state Senate. The governor called both houses back into session, as is his right and prerogative under the state constitution. Now, they're in session to do the people's business, okay? Some of that business isn't pleasant, but because it's not pleasant doesn't mean you say, you know what, I'm going to pack my bags and go home to Northern Virginia or parts elsewhere. You are there to do a job and not engage in party theatrics. So when the Democrats voted to, and I think there were most of the Democrats in the Senate to go home, my response was how childish. Just it was petulant conduct, and it was shameful, and they did themselves a disservice.
So if Joe Morrissey was in the state Senate as an independent, you would have not voted to adjourn. You would have voted to stay, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm going to do there, and I'm going to do my job. Hey, let's get, John, we need to understand something. It's, in politics, it's easy to join the side that everybody, on the issue that everybody champions and everybody agrees with. That's the easy part. The difficult part of politics is taking a principled position on an issue that, is not so popular, okay? But you do it anyway because it's your job. You make a difficult decision. What the Democrats should have done is, this might not be pleasant, but we're here to engage in redistricting, and we're going to, the courts have said and the governor said, we've got to do it. Stay there and do it and cast your vote. That's the thing. make a vote. And if the people, and what they did is they left so that they did not have to cast that unpleasant vote, and it was wrong. And I absolutely wouldn't have done it. You know that, John.
Absolutely outrageous. Hey, Joe, we're almost out of time. If people want to get involved, they want to get in your campaign, or they just want to get more information, Joe, where do they go?
I've got a set of website, but let me give my campaign office. It's 737-1626, 737-1626. Love to have anybody involved, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Vegetarian. Give me a call at 737-1626.